Tuesday when the selection committee releases their polls, since they kind of matter?
We won't. Yeah. Stanford matters a lot. That matters kind of, and you have that the description correctly there. But yeah, we will be solely focused on Stanford.
Overall, how do you feel about where you are position-wise in the Pac-12 though, and kind of talk about Stanford? It's always a big game the last couple of years. Are they similar to the last few years, or are they different in some ways?
Defensively is the only side that I've watched to this point. Not had a chance, obviously, to see part of their game yesterday, but they're outstanding. It's they're hitting their stride. It looks like offensively. Again, I haven't watched those other games where they were, allegedly not playing to the level that they would like. But they're really, really good on defense. Ton of depth. Ton of guys playing at a high level. Schematically, they're similar to how they have been. Excellent tacklers. Very, very sound. Make you earn every inch schematically. And then what was the other first part of that question?
Well, it seems like the North Division's kind of come down to this game. Do you like the position you're in, having the lead right now, and Stanford coming here?
Well, we've put ourselves in a position where every game is vital, and they're next, and every game is the biggest game. And you saw a couple people go down yesterday that hadn't lost, and that's the key right now, is just taking care of the rock and scoring points and winning games.
Going to this side of the room with Andrew Greif.
How have they gone about replacing guys like Murphy and Scope, even Derek Mason, and yet kept this continuity?
Yeah, they've been unfortunately really good at that. Coach Anderson, very similar philosophically to what they've been, and obviously their program, I think, believes in their system. They're similar to us defensively from an alignment standpoint. From there, their pressures are different, their coverages are different. But they're schematically they're excellent. Their personnel, like we said, is unfortunately hasn't missed a beat.
To stay on this side of the room.
So recently, I've seen Mariota working the ball more to the big guys, Stanford, Brown, etc. How big are they gonna? How big of a part are they gonna play in the game?
We'll find out. Those guys. And now you're saying that Charles is a little guy and Royce Green's a little guy, and I'm going to point in your direction. No, those guys have come up big. Dwayne had that just phenomenal catch against Washington in the corner of the end zone. Those areas in the red zone, there's some areas where you try to pinpoint from a scheme standpoint, and the longer you are, the more you're able to go up and get it and come down in traffic and be a big, tough target in the red zone. That can happen. Dwayne's done a good job. He adjusted a couple routes keep thinking he played on Friday to make big plays, and then also opened up somebody else a couple times. And Farrow is getting better and better as each week progresses.
Stay over here with Matt.
The last couple of weeks, you've put Charles in the backfield a little bit, and then this week we saw him actually get some carries. And I know you said last week that there's only one ball, but do you feel like he's shown enough to maybe get a couple more carries every game?
Definitely. That kid, that was an unbelievable, just a rare football performance on Friday night of what he did on special teams. He basically played, fullback, tailback, and receiver on offense, in essence. Goes down and forces a fumble on the punt, has a couple other tackles, gets tackled a couple times in kickoff coverage, and then has the punt return for a touchdown, which was phenomenal. But not surprisingly, he was our special teams player of the week this week, and also the entire punt return team will get some kudos for some big blocks. And then the special teams scout of the week was Jawan Williams, who did a phenomenal job, specifically as a kickoff guy, kickoff cover guy. And then defensively, shared honors DeForest and Troy Hill. Austin Deitch was our scout team player of the week. And then offensively, Dwayne Stanford was our player of the game. And then John Kenyon was our scout team player of the game.
In the back, Mike.
Back here. I'm sure you watched Stanford Oregon State yesterday. The way that Stanford's defense was able to limit a guy as talented as Sean Mannion, what did you take away from their pass defense and their ability to get him out of the game and put pressure on him the way they did?
Yeah, they always do a nice job of showing one thing and doing another, whether it's a 3-man rush, a 4-man rush, a max pressure type of situation. And then the thing that they do great, probably better than anybody we've played to this point, is tackle. One-on-one guys, or just leveraging the ball properly. They very rarely miss tackles, and that's something that is huge. And so if you're pressuring and you break one tackle, that's a big play. If you force them to get the ball out quickly and tackle, it's a 4-yard gain. And that's something they've been really good at for a long time. And unfortunately, it's not just Oregon State that they've been able to play really, really well defensively. And so there's a few tough films to watch from an offensive standpoint.
Andrew?
You mentioned in post game that you guys go up 31-14, and there was a lack of concentration, lack of focus, of kind of putting a figurative boot on the neck, Cal, putting them away for good. Is there a way you try to correct that during the week, not just post in the middle of the game?
Yeah, that's something you're constantly doing. Obviously, on the sideline, it's constant, whether it's coaches, players. At halftime, we certainly addressed it, and we talk about that all the time. Competing for one snap, constantly a next play mindset. But yeah, that's something. Again, when you're kind of fighting human nature, that's not something you just talk about once and you put it away.
Front row to your left, Mark.
Okay, so Mark, just going back to Friday night and reflecting off it, what was the biggest difference you saw between Cal last year to the game that you had this Friday against them, last Friday?
Mm-hmm. I think their biggest, from their standpoint, offensively, they're healthy. They're probably healthier than anybody else we've played to this point, and they've got a ton of playmakers. There's a bunch of guys on that offense in particular that we know about from trying to recruit them, and I thought Goff played really, really well. Tough dude. Took a bunch of shots. The package with the other quarterback, they expanded a little bit more. They've done that in pretty much every game, and did a little bit more and did it well. And then defensively, they're better. And our guys knew it was going to be a challenge and rose to that challenge.
Matt?
You guys gave up 28 points in the first half and then cut that in half in the second half. Could you maybe talk a little bit about what was the message at halftime and then where you guys improved to do that?
We offensively turning the ball over on the whatever yard line isn't
Right.
good, and that gives them a short field and some momentum at a point when we need to smell the blood in the water and finish it. We did that better offensively in the second half. We still left some things out there. We just executed a little bit better. It wasn't, again, anything from a drastic schematic change, or they didn't really do anything differently either. We could have caught probably 4 very realistic catches at picks, including the one that goes right through Troy's hands, in the end zone. So that's a 14-point swing. He might score on that. It might be a 100-yard pick six. And so the woulda, coulda, shoulda could go on forever.
Over here.
So, talking about momentum, how big was that fumble? Tie game, 14-14, 17-yard punt. How much did that help you guys?
Well, certainly off on the heels of the 17-yard punt, it was big. Given that offense a short field is not anything something we ever want to do. And I thought our guys responded well. Unfortunately, we didn't turn into a touchdown, but at least it stemmed the tide there a little bit. And something that we need to do more of.
Go ahead, you had a question?
All right, yeah, just going back to, again, to Friday night, and you were talking about Jared Goff and how he's a very dynamic quarterback. Do you think the defense was able to bring sufficient pressure to him to stop somewhat of the pass-oriented offense that Cal has?
Sometimes. Sometimes we did a great job of getting to him, whether it was a sack fumble, or just pressuring him, making him move his feet. That's something he's doing better this year, is keeping his eyes downfield and within the pocket or within the closing pocket of still making plays. You're never probably putting as much pressure on the quarterback ideally as you'd wish ever, but did a decent job of that.
You get the microphone behind you, Rob.
How did you think Schneider handled all the various kicking duties?
He did a great job. We had one kick that wasn't ideal, but for what we asked him to do, and against again a couple just great returners, freak returners, he did a nice job.
Haven't forgot about you guys on the phone. Gary or Jason, any questions?
Mark, on Royce, another big game from him. Just if you could talk a little bit about how much that helps Marcus and the entire offense. And another part of that question, there seemed like there was one play where it might have really broken. Maybe he ran in front of Coronas out on the outside.
Mm-hmm.
He's still sort of learning as he goes.
Definitely. We actually had 3 different situations sort of like that. One time he went the wrong way on a play. Which that tends to hurt the efficiency of that play. And then a couple other times, things that like you're saying, he'll watch the film one time, kind of go aw shucks and move on, both on the perimeter run game and then a couple times in the interior run game where just a feel, a press, whatever the right thing is of making that happen.
Jason, do you have a question?
Sure. Looking at Stanford's offense against your defense, a lot of people are making a big deal about number of yards and points you gave up Friday, and now Stanford has a supposed reconfigured offense coming into this game. What concerns you the most about Stanford going against your defense? Hogan's real mobile. They have some big fast receiver in Montgomery, but what concerns you the most?
Everything. Run, pass, play action, scheme players, everything. They're capable again at every position, more than capable, and capable of going the distance, and we will definitely have our hands full.
Okay, front left, right.
Are you at all surprised by how much the freshmen have really stepped up this year? Nelson, Devin Allen, Royce Freeman especially. I mean, how much have they impressed you?
A ton. And going back to last spring, we talked about this a lot, with you guys, and we knew that those guys were going to have to play just by given their talent level and kind of the depth at those positions. There were some opportunities, and I think again that a huge amount of credit has to go obviously to them, but then to Keenan Lowe and to Marcus in terms of coaching them up and getting them ready to play. And that's something that our guys hang our hat on, and is just so evident with a guy like Keenan Lowe. He's coaching a guy to take balls away from him. He's coaching a guy to play his position better than he does. And that, obviously Marcus, it's, the unit serving and the team serving, which completely makes sense. But that's something that our guys know we need. We have to be able to plug somebody in there immediately, and they have to be great. And those guys are headed down that road.
Andrew?
Red zone offensively for you guys this year has been a positive trend. You guys are up, I think, 40, 50 spots as you were last year. Frost said that Lubick has helped out quite a bit with that, in the passing game in particular. Can you expand on how he kind of lends contributions to helping that out?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think again that's almost on par of what we were just talking about. We don't sit around and go, hey, this was Andrew's idea, hey, this was Matt's idea, hey, this was Rob's idea. We don't do that, and I think that's what makes us our offensive staff do a great job. And it's a collective deal. It wasn't Steve Greatwood's idea. It was our deal. And as soon as you start keeping score like that, you're not efficient. You're not working the right way. But he's been a tremendous asset for ever since he's been here. Both as a recruiter, as a coach, and he does a great job of breaking things down in a simple way. Very systematic guy, very weird guy, but a great guy, and I'm glad he's on our team. I mean that in the most loving of ways.
To the larger point, then I guess how have you guys improved, regardless of whose idea it was
Mhm.
in the red zone?
You know, we've been able to run the ball a little bit better. We still stubbed our toe too many times, including this last week. You know, but for the most part, things have been there in terms of you know, a play to be made. We need to coach the execution a little bit better, or what, you know, whatever it is. And then we also had a couple times where we're taking a knee, so that, you know, those kind of count against you, and I know that leads to your stats.
Matt?
Going back to like 09 and 2010 when you were OC to now at receiver, what's the biggest difference? I mean, you guys lose so many guys from last year's team and injuries from Lowe and Addison, and yet production continues to just amaze, and you put up big numbers no matter who's out there at receiver.
Have a bunch of great quarterbacks, you know, that make that happen, and you know, I think we've improved there. We were pretty good then, and just things were a little bit different. But you know, we've always been confident in those guys. You know, and I think that's part of it too. Is you know, we haven't ever batted an eye of whoever's going in the game, whether it was when Nate Costa went in for Darren Thomas, or when Darren Carrington goes in for Keenan Lowe. That position is going to play great.
Rob?
Part of Stanford's identity the last couple of years has been using extra offensive linemen. I think Cal did that. Washington State did that. I don't know if you've seen it from anybody else beyond that. Is that something that's becoming a little more common to the effect that you're a little more used to seeing it now? And if you could reflect on that, and also the depth of your defensive front seven, how that's come along, particularly the last couple of weeks.
Well, the depth has been tested, that's for sure. To answer that last part first, you know, some of those other guys are playing a little bit more. They're playing a little bit better. We're still not quite where we want to be, you know, fully at that spot. But yeah, it's both the multiple offensive linemen deal, tackle over, you know, kind of traditional and untraditional, non-traditional, unbalanced looks have been popular across the country. But yeah, we've seen the multiple, or more than 5 offensive linemen from a bunch of people, and I'm sure we'll see it this weekend.
Mike Scott on the back.
Mark, any update you can give us on Tyner, Armstead, Woden?
We're very excited to have practice and meet tomorrow, but other than that, no.
Ryan Thorburn?
Mark, with your offensive line, is in some ways what happened to them early in the year made them stronger. I mean, you had to play with different guys and key roles, and now some of those guys are back, so maybe you're deeper and more experienced a little bit.
That should be the case. You know, it should. We didn't play as well as we could have up front this last game. Part of that was, you know, well, part of it was a lot of things. But that definitely should be the case. You know, we've had a bunch of guys, whether it's Doug Brenner has jumped in there and done some good things, some things we need to improve upon. Everybody across the board, you know, obviously had a couple big time penalties by our veteran guys in situations that again could have just ended the game. Some communication things with again some simple things that were frustrating, but you know, we believe in that depth too.
We're going to have to wrap this up. Any other questions on the phone?
Just real quick, and you touched on it a little bit, Mark, but it'll happen all week. You'll hear these questions. Is too much made of Stanford, the fact that they won the last 2? Is it really just, you know, they're the next game, they're a good opponent? Is it more about that?
Well, it again, it has to be. You know, it's like I said in the off season, we lose to Stanford and we have to blow up our program, and they lose to somebody else, and it's just an anomaly. And that's where, you know, kind of where, whatever. I don't know what the right words are, expectations or where we've been. That's the talk, and that's your talk. That's going to be the talk. But our guys have to be wholly focused on having, you know, great preparation for who's next. I'm certain that the competitors among them, which those are all of them, aren't excited to talk about those things or excited to you know, have been in those situations. But you know, Stanford is a great program. We respect them a ton, and we're going to prepare like heck.
Okay, last question.
Hey, Mark. Just a final reflection on Cal in the game. So did the absence of Eric Armstead, Thomas Tyner, and Matt Wogan affect the team's overall performance, in your opinion?
Well, the team's performance was we got a big win on the road, and that's the most important part. And you know, numbers don't matter, stats don't matter, all that stuff. It's you know, wins. And somebody just told me right before I came in here, I got fed that there's a couple. I think it was. Now I'm gonna screw up the stats. See, I don't know any stats. I'm not trying to get them. You know, yards are so irrelevant in terms of you know, there's a bunch of top 10 teams, a couple SEC teams that have given up 500 plus yards to a lot of people, and you know, when we do it, it's again locally it's this huge deal, but winning on the road against you know, against any team is tough, and we'll take it.
Really, the last question this time.
To get better. Oh, go ahead.
I wonder if you can put on your pollster hat. If you had a cast Falco top 4, I know you don't watch a whole lot of games, but do you have any? Who would you think would be the kind of top 4 on your ballot?
The San Francisco Giants and the Kansas City Royals would be in my top 2 because they're still playing. It's just it's too early, you know. And again, it's awesome for college football. It's great that you know, if you guys need to kill airtime or column inches, do they still talk in column inches, or is it just characters? But you know, say your top 4 and argue, right? That, I mean, there's 4 hours of talk radio. That's, you know, great. And from that standpoint, it's great. We're in a position where this game means a lot, and we're going to trust our process and trust our culture, and again, prepare like heck for a great team.